An Indian news portal has alleged authorities in the country likely spied on phones belonging to journalists, politicians and business leaders, among others. The revelations are part of a global investigation into the use of specialized phone spying software by governments around the world. The software, called Pegasus, developed by an Israeli surveillance technology firm NSO, can hack into smartphones and access data on it. A consortium of media organizations were able to access a list containing numbers of persons potentially targeted using Pegasus. The Indian portal, The Wire, alleges at least 40 Indian journalists could have been targets of this hacking. Of these, the phones of at least 5 journalists were confirmed to have been infected with Pegasus spyware. And among those journalists is one of the founding editors of the news portal The Wire, Siddharth Varadarajan. He joins me now from Delhi. Siddharth, how did you determine that your phone was infected with Pegasus software?
I was contacted by Forbidden Stories, which is the non-profit media rights organization out of Paris that had access to these to this leaked database of numbers, and they, I guess, ran through the numbers using different methods, and my number popped out as one that is publicly available. And they got in touch with me, and we agreed that my phone should be tested. And it was forensically tested by Amnesty International's tech team through a kind of remote upload, and found to be infected. And that's also when we decided to be part of the Pegasus project that Forbidden Stories was coordinating. And we have been, working on this along with the other media partners for the better part of a few months.
Right. How certain are you, Siddharth, that this was at the behest of the Indian government?
You see, we can. There is no way to say this, conclusively, except by conjecture. And what I would offer to your viewers is the following: that we have conclusive evidence of Pegasus infections in 10 phones in India. Infections, 9 are iPhones, one is an Android, and each of these show very definite traces of Pegasus. In addition, we have this target list of names of people, that appear to have been selected for surveillance. We don't know whether that was successfully done or not. And if you look at the range of names, it's clear that the only government that would be interested in targeting these people is the Indian government. But you have then NSO, which sells Pegasus, saying that we only sell to government clients. So that takes off the table the possibility of any private company doing this kind of surveillance. So we're talking about a government. And then it's essentially the identity and range of names in whom the only person that could have interest would be the government of India. But my suggestion to the government of India is something very, very basic, that we know these phones are targeted. We know only governments do targeting. If it's not you, then for heaven's sake, given that we are suggesting that major opposition leaders and even an election commissioner have been targeted, and ministers, for heaven's sake, please investigate and unearth which government is doing this, if it's not you.
It might sound like a very basic question, Siddharth, but why is the government targeting journalists and other prominent persons?
Well, the clear and obvious answer is that they want to know what they're up to. They want to have advanced information about stories that they're working on, who they meet, who their sources are. And this is not just, incidentally, a disruption of individual privacy, but it's an assault on media freedom and thus an assault on democracy. So anytime when a government develops this kind of unhealthy curiosity in what its journalists are up to, or wants to use illegitimate means to second-guess what its political opponents are doing, you can well imagine that this is a government which does not respect the rules of the game, which does not respect rule of law, does not respect democracy and its institutions, and a bedrock of the smooth functioning of democracy are free and fair elections, and of course having independent and free media. And once you start targeting journalists, that's a direct attack on freedom of the press.
Siddharth, I've been looking at a lot of chatter on Twitter ever since The Wire broke this story. It doesn't make for very encouraging reading at all. And therefore, I want to ask you, this assault on democracy, as you described it, do you believe this at all matters to a majority of Indian citizens?
I think it does. I think that when they see the range of, it's one thing for people to be cynical about, well, every government, uses dirty tricks on its opponents. No government likes journalists, right? It's easy to say that in a cynical sort of way, right? But when the target list includes the election commissioner, that too, the one election commissioner who stood his ground in the face of Narendra Modi's repeated violations of the election rules in 2019, if he ends up getting targeted, I think that should alarm everybody, every citizen of India, because every citizen of India has a stake in the free and fair conduct of elections. If among the people selected for targeting is a young woman whose only crime was to file a complaint of sexual harassment against the sitting Chief Justice of India, and we find that days after she goes public with her complaint, no less than 11 phones connected to her and her family get put on a list of persons of interest. We don't know. We couldn't do forensics on their phones, so we don't know if Pegasus was, whether their phones were infected with Pegasus.
Right.
But the fact that this woman and her family could end up on a list like that should set alarm bells ringing for every decent person in India, because essentially what this means is that those with authority want to have their way, and if you take action against them, then they want to make sure that they know what you are doing every step of the way, every day of your life. And I think that's really, really alarming.
Siddharth Varadarajan, we'll leave it there for the time being, but thank you so much for joining us today.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.